started, good evening everyone. We thank everyone for their patience as we sort of got settled tonight. Before we get started, as I stated, cookies, drinks over there. Masks are optional. You guys don't have to wear masks if you don't like to. A few of us are wearing them, but you guys are more than welcome to take them off, and I'm sure there'll be times in the evening where ours come on and off. But in this building, they are optional, so do whatever makes you comfortable. My name is Nick Alexakis. I'm the Director of Communication and the Chief of Staff for the school district. Tonight, we are going to briefly go over our presentation, which is our Transition to Support Student Access Plan. Some of you guys may be familiar with it from what we've sent out in emails, from some of the stuff on our website. Maybe you've watched some of our videos, or you were at the board meeting when we made our big introduction. Maybe you've read about it in the newspaper. So we're going to do an abbreviated version of our presentation. We're going to go over some of the highlights. We're then going to answer some of the questions that have come to us from the community, from some of our stakeholders via thought exchange. And I will explain that when we get to it. And then we have a little activity for everybody here to ask some questions that you guys have about our plan. So really briefly, this plan has a couple components to it. And what it does is it's going to create dedicated space providing a full continuum of services within our district. It's going to honor the history of one of our most prestigious programs, establish a central location to provide needed resources and assistance to the community, service parents and community in an accessible, centrally located facility, provide professional development and collaborative space within the district, and improve learning and working spaces. We're going to touch on all of these during the course of the presentation and how we hope to make all of this a reality. Before we do so, however, we want to talk about some of our dedication to improvements. As anyone who has been in our district for the past several years may notice, when you drive around our buildings, when you come into our schools, you'll notice a lot of improvements. We've dedicated more than $30 million in the past 3 years to our capital improvement plan. That's windows that you see. You're seeing new furniture. You're seeing new HVAC systems all over our district and more in our schools. These are the things that are directly impacting students, directly impacting teachers to create more comfortable learning environments. And during the next 7 years, we are dedicating an extra $86 million to this. So we want to continue to make the improvements in our school buildings, where our students are, where our teachers are, where the learning is occurring. And then our capital improvement committee is continuing to look and to plan and to find where else improvements are necessary. So now that we've got that out of the way, we want to talk about some of our proposed transitions. Here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about moving public-facing departments to the Waukegan Education Service Center. We're going to discuss a wraparound center, the BEST Center. We're going to discuss some changes for our AOEC program, transformations to the Waukegan Professional Learning Center, which is actually the space we're in today, and the establishing of a JROTC Academy. To get us started, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. LeBaron, who is our Deputy Superintendent, and he's going to run us through the Educational Service Center and our wraparound center. And LeBaron, I'm going to run you on these.
All right, thank you, Mr. Alexakis. So first we're going to talk about our Educational Services Center. So the Educational Services Center is going to be where our public-facing departments are going to be. You're giving resources, your payroll, outreach, family community engagement, as well as some other departments. Now the estimated completion for this work to be done is July of 2023. And the Educational Services Center we propose is going to be at 214 Washington Street in downtown Waukegan. So these moves are going to help us have a one-stop shop approach for our families. If you want to come, you want to register, which you currently do here at the Welcome Center, you'll be able to do it at this location. You'll also be able to talk to staff about food service needs, transportation needs, all the needs that your children have before they go to school within our school district. All right, some of the benefits. So the building in downtown Waukegan, it's family friendly. It's accessible. It's centrally located in Waukegan. We're going to have several office spaces there that will work collaboratively. They will have access department to department to easily communicate as opposed to having to pick up the phone, and you schedule multiple appointments to get the services you need. There's going to be parking downtown to satisfy this facility. We're also planning to have a kids area there, so when you need to come and you need to do district business, you bring your children with you. They'll have a place that they can go, be monitored, play, as opposed to being with you, and it'll be just convenient for the children as well as the parents. So when we met and discussed this property, we had some guiding principles. We involved several departments within the district to have a part and a say on what those guiding principles should be. Our guiding principles is the building will be a welcoming environment for staff and public visitors. It will offer collaborative and professional working spaces, be flexible enough to be shared by multiple departments for the most efficient use of space and enhanced communication, and then each space will reflect each department's need for privacy and confidentiality. So whether you're having small group meetings, one-on-one meetings with staff, you're able to do that all within one space. Now this is a rendering of what the space could look like, but again, this is just a rendering only. You'll see the two doors right in the center of the screen. That is Washington Street in downtown Waukegan on the corner of Washington and Genesee. You'll come in there to the left. We have what we call our Welcome Center space where you'll do your registration, which is currently, again, being done at this location. And you see to the right there, you have a small play space or conference area for individuals to go to. This is just the first floor coming in off the street, just to give a conceptual idea of what the space could look like. So a timeline for the Educational Services Center. We have a May to June 2022 timeline. Our Board of Education did approve the administration to proceed with planning this plan moving forward, so we're able to finish designs and start construction documents, which we have a July to September timeline, with bidding in October, and construction beginning January 2023 and ultimately being complete July of 2023, so that we can open it next fall. Our wraparound center. This is also going to be housed at the Educational Services Center in the lower level. So the wraparound center is a one-stop shop approach, not only for parents that are in our district, but also general community members that need access to services and support. The wraparound center will be open to everyone, and it'll be accessible during the day, in the evenings, and on the weekends. Now, some of the services that will be provided, some potential services, because we are going to do a needs assessment, are juvenile justice advocacy, SEL services, clothing and food pantry, attorney services, mental health supports, substance abuse counseling, and housing services. Again, these are some of the potential options. There may be additional options or higher needs options that will be housed at this location when we do our needs assessment. So the state of Illinois has appropriated $2.5 million to construct this space. Again, this is a community space, but it's going to be housed at the Educational Services Center, which is owned by the district. That appropriation, there are two appropriations, the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, $2.5 million, and then we have the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority. That's for programmatic needs on an annual basis. So $800,000 every year to support the programming at this space, $2.5 million for construction one-time use. And we want to thank our state representative, Rita Mayfield. She's been an advocate for the district for several years, and she helped secure the funds for this location for the district, not just this year, but indefinitely as long as the center is open. And here's a general rendering of the welcome area. So right below the lobby in the previous rendering, you saw the doors coming off Washington. There's stairs and an elevator that go right below that main entrance. That would be the welcoming space for the wraparound center.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jason Nault, Assistant Superintendent in Waukegan. One aspect of the plan is to create an establishment of a BEST Center. And the BEST Center is a behavior, emotional, and social teaching center for some of our most delicate students. This would be students that currently have IEPs or behavior intervention plans, also known as BIPs. BEST Campus will provide services for those students that are currently being provided out of district and therapeutic-based settings. So bringing those students back into the district. The BEST Center campus will provide some more intense social and emotional supports to students whose behaviors or emotional needs require significant resources that typically cannot be provided in traditional school setting. Examples would be students that are presenting consistent patterns of aggressive or dangerous behavior, students whose needs, like I said, exceed the resources that are available in a neighborhood homeschool. The BEST program will require the need of dedicated space in order to provide WPS 60 a full continuum of services and programmatic offerings. We are projecting to serve roughly 50 students in this space, converting Lincoln Center into 6 to 8 classrooms, with therapy rooms available for social workers, psychologists, counselors, administrative offices, of course, staff rooms, a health office, library, media center, and storage. So it would have all aspects of a traditional school, including a gym and the stage as well. Some of the benefits. I said earlier, the students would be allowed to stay in district instead of being, getting services from therapeutic day schools. There'd be a full continuum of services for our DL students in the district. Core instruction with the WPS 60 curriculum. So as it stands now, we do not have a voice in the type of instruction the students are receiving when they're outplaced. In this situation, we would. We'd be able to ensure the academic integrity of those students. They'd be receiving the same type of curriculum that our currently receive in district. We would maintain links to the community. There'd be opportunity for students to participate in WPS 60 extracurricular activities, better access and participation for parents as well, better access for community resources. Mr. Moulton mentioned that wraparound center as well as an option. Transportation time would be greatly reduced for these students. They'd be right in, like I said, in the district in Waukegan. And the district IE team decision-making in regard for return to home school, there'd be better access for transitioning students back to their home schools as well. The timeline for design completion will start this summer and go into the spring of 2023. Construction documents hopefully available by spring of 2023. Bidding starting next spring as well, with construction starting in the fall of 2023. Another aspect of our plan is the Alternative Optional Education Center would also be transitioning to the Lincoln Center. Currently, the AOEC resides at the Brookside campus, in a separate building on the Brookside campus, but we'll be moving that to the Lincoln Center. Washington campus. AOEC transition to the Lincoln Center, again, maximizes the space within the district. The move to the Lincoln Center will provide greater access to a number of services for students and staff. AOEC students will have access to a wide range of programming options that were previously limited by the space. Number of students serving would kind of mirror the number of students that are currently in our AOEC program, which is around 140. Sorry. Waukegan Professional Learning Center. This is the building that we're all in tonight, this evening. So another aspect of our plan would be to convert this into a professional learning center for the district. As the district advances continuous improvement and growth of their employees and providing resources to the community, this space would serve that purpose. Vacated offices at the Welcome Center would be transitioned into classrooms or collaborative spaces for professional development, staff trainings, parent workshops, and community meetings. If you look at the space that we're in alone, this could be used for community organizations. It could be used for the district to provide large group trainings. On the other side of the wall where the mural is, there's classrooms over there, so there's classroom space for smaller professional development sessions. We have breakout rooms on the side here that can be used for smaller groups as well. So the space could really be maximized for a wide variety of different needs to provide professional learning to our teachers, to our staff, to parents, and again, it could be used by the community as well. Another aspect of the plan would be the creation of our JROTC Academy. We currently have a program, and as Nick mentioned in the opening, this is one of the most prestigious programs that we have in the district. The JROTC Academy will serve as a hub for our JROTC students from both campuses, Washington and Brookside. It will provide those students with dedicated space to conduct team drills, some office space for their staff, provide JROTC students with dedicated space to collaborate and mentor other cadets. Colonel Painter and his team were instrumental in this process by giving us a vision for what they want this space to look like. One of the aspects they touched on most was the mentoring piece. That having their students be able to mentor, upper grade students being able to mentor 12th graders, be able to mentor 11th, 10th, 10th, and 9th. That's how you build that program. The program has been, we had one of the original programs in the United States, started here in 1960. Go back one more. The number of students that we would anticipate to serve would be 500. I think at its max, our ROTC program had almost 800 students. So our goal would be to continue to expand and build that program back to those numbers that we saw in the earlier section of the program. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jason. Thank you, LeBaron. We're going to go over a quick summary here before we get into some of the questions and our activity. So we know we threw a lot at you guys, several different buildings, several different ideas that we're proposing. And so just to kind of summarize it up, make sure everything is fresh in our minds, if you will. We're proposing moving district departments from the Welcome Center, from the Lincoln Center, some of those public-facing departments, to one location to create that one-stop shop approach to service, to be able to do a better job of serving our parents and our staff when they're coming in to the district, or when they're coming in whether it's an employee, whether it's a new family. We want to create the new wraparound center downtown Waukegan. It's going to be a place where we can offer services for not just our families, but for families throughout Waukegan. Our best center at Lincoln Center, at the current Lincoln Center location, is going to provide more intense SEL supports for some of our students. At the Professional Learning Center here, we talk about how much we value professional development of our staff, how important it is for our staff to continue to grow. And this center is going to really allow us to do it in a space here in district, so we're not having to go outside of district so much and rent a couple rooms here or rent a room here and there. It's going to really allow for one space where even some of our professional development coordinator can be housed here and do a lot of the work out of one location. Our JROTC Academy, we talked about, that's going to be one location where our students use as that hub for that JROTC class during the day. And then our AOEC going to the 1201 North Sheridan is going to provide some additional opportunities for programming, particularly with the larger gym and things of that like, maybe some more health and fitness type activities for them. So what we also want to discuss, so that's the summary. Now, since we introduced this plan a few weeks ago, there has been some action taken, some action that was necessary for our timeline, and I'm going to allow Mr. Moulton to discuss a little bit about what that action is, what it means, and what it's going to allow us to do.
Thank you, Mr. Alazakis. So, as I mentioned earlier, this past Tuesday, 2 nights ago, our Board of Education approved 2 things. They approved the Superintendent and Board President to execute the documents to the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity for $2.5 million to accept that grant. It is a grant document, but it is appropriated for the district in that amount. So it's not a competitive grant. We have that appropriation specifically for this project, the Wraparound Center downtown. That documentation is due May 6th, which is next week, next Friday. What the Board of Education also authorized was for the administration to proceed with planning for the other projects. So at this point in time, no additional costs have been incurred. We did a $1.5 million recommendation to proceed with planning, architectural review, design, bid documents for all of the other locations that are part of the plan. Okay, so the timeline that we mentioned earlier matches up with that. It's going to be May, this weekend. So we're right in line with the proposed timeline at this point in time. We're going to proceed with the planning, and we're going to report out as we have updates throughout the process. And we will have to take contract documents back to the Board of Education for approval, as we normally do for any capital improvement project that we do in the district.
Okay, so for this next part, I'm going to allow them to hold on to the mics because Mr. Moulton, Dr. Nault, Mr. Nissen in the back, they're going to be helping to answer some of the questions. So as you guys know, one thing that we asked the community when we unveiled this plan, our parents, staff, other stakeholders in the community, let us know what questions you have. We wanted to gather your questions. And, when we did this 3 nights ago, we took the top 10 rated questions at the time, and we went through them, and we answered those questions. Today, we're doing the same thing. And it's not the same questions. I think maybe about 3 or 4 are repeats, but there's a lot of new ones. So a lot more people have submitted questions. We've received a lot more feedback on those questions. And so we want to get to those today because we know that if these are the questions that have been asked most often, or that we have the most, that these questions have been rated the highest, that there's probably some people who are in the room, or those of you who are watching at home on YouTube, who also have the same question. Before we get to that, this here is a word cloud based on some of the questions we received. So a word cloud, if you're not familiar with it, so, the phrases that are used most often are going to appear the highest. And so looking at this word cloud, you can kind of tell where people's thoughts are on the questions that they are asking. And so we're going to get right into it. This is the top rated question that we received. And it talks about, it's a good plan, how are we going to staff it? And that's a question that actually, about 3 different versions of this question were in our top 10. We're not going to include all 3. We're going to just go with this one about, we know how difficult it is staffing diverse learners. And we also know that this plan is the best center, and that this question is referring to, is not opening tomorrow. And so Dave here from our diverse learner department is going to talk a little bit about the staffing, some of the efforts that we are making in that department, and some of the efforts that we'll continue to make to ensure that we have qualified staff to meet the needs of our students.
So Thank you very much. My name is Davidessen, and I'm with the Director of Department. Okay. So my name is Davidessen, I'm with the Diverse Learner Department, and we're very excited about this opportunity to build an in-house program. We know that the staffing will be difficult. There's a shortage of staff around the country right now. However, we are confident that if we work with our partners in HR and recruit heavily across the country, that we'll be able to find the qualified staff that we need. One of the things that we're going to do is when we open this program, we're not going to have 60 kids come in the first day. We'll start with a couple of classrooms and then build it out as we have the opportunity to staff it and as we have the confidence that the program is going well. Okay?
Yeah, and if I could just add one response to that as well. Thank you, Commissioner Nesson. As part of the transition plan, we've talked about some departments going downtown to the Educational Services Center. One of the departments that we propose stay at the BEST program, which is currently Lincoln Center, is the Diverse Learners Department. So not only do we have a staffing plan to help support that program specifically, but several members of the current department would also stay at that location to support the program as well as the rest of the district.
Next question. Why do so many supports and resources exist for students at the lower end of the academic scale, while students who excel are essentially ignored? So as you're reading these questions, I didn't mention this earlier, what you see in bold is the question, and then on Thought Exchange, the italicized part is each user has an opportunity to explain why they feel that question is important. Now this is we did receive this question 3 nights ago as well, but it's a question that continues to be rated high, so we wanted to address it again today.
Thank you, Dave. So this plan really is based on equity, not equality. So when looking at the needs of our students, the needs of our staff, we realize the different aspects of this plan will definitely meet, especially some of those, like I mentioned earlier, with that BEST Center, some of those students that have the most delicate needs. In speaking with Colonel Painter about the JROTC program, that program typically services a lot of our high-performing students. As a matter of fact, he had mentioned that the top 5 students in this year's senior class are JROTC members. So when we think of, I guess, the range of abilities and the range of skills that our students have, we're trying to touch as many of those needs as possible through this plan, and then we'll continue to seek out resources and programs to benefit all students, our gifted students as well. We know that oftentimes gifted students are overlooked, but our plan right now is to focus on students that have some more pressing needs, and then again, JROTC, some of the other existing programs that we have in our schools also are touching on the needs of those high flyer students as well.
Next question, is there more thought to those who have sensory issues, for example, ways to make facilities more accessible for blind people? And I believe it was Dr. Null or Mr. Moulton can discuss some of the ADA accommodations that would come into these buildings as they're being renovated.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So as we consider these transitions, the buildings are going to be ADA accessible. Now, as we do our architect review alongside the Lake County Regional Office of Education, currently Lincoln Center is not a school building. When it becomes a school building, for the BEST program in AOEC, it will need to have certain accessibility requirements to house students, and we will need authorization to occupy that space through those requirements. Another thing I'd like to point out, because this question here seems, one of the responses is navigating the building, so I'm making an assumption that's other buildings within our district. Currently, signing and accessibility is something we are looking at, specifically signage throughout the buildings, meeting certain requirements so that we have better logistics throughout the buildings, as well as ensuring those who are deaf and hearing impaired, blind individuals will have a better opportunity to navigate the buildings as well. So it's going to serve those purposes, and that's a district-wide look that we're currently doing.
All right. This question, why would we think to purchase a location when we need to build a new high school? High school, we're saying, is outdated, overcrowding. I mentioned this a couple days ago. People have, I went to school here 25 years ago. The thoughts about building a new high school were around then. They were around in the 60s, so it's nothing new. Mr. Moe can talk a little bit about some of the work that would entail and what we're trying to do here.
Thank you. So building a new high school would require a few different things. One, it would require a multi-year referendum. A multi-year referendum to build a new high school or any school within the district. That's a minimum of 3 years, could be much longer. Also, you're talking about space and land. Ideally, if we were to build a new high school, it would house all of our high school students, 9 to 12. Currently, space is at a premium. Land is at a premium in the city of Waukegan. So right now, that's one of the reasons why we're not looking at that at this time. Instead, we've invested several capital dollars to update and renovate our 2 high school campuses to help better support the needs of our students.
Question 5, kind of similar to a question we saw a few moments ago. Is there space for special services such as deaf and hard of hearing? They need better support. So in this plan, is there space for, I believe, what's being asked?
Yes, we will create the space for the best program based on the best program specific needs. From a building standpoint and a renovation standpoint, we're going to focus on that. So it's not going to be traditional sized classrooms that have up to 30 students. There will be small workspaces, small office spaces, small classroom spaces to support this group of students based on the needs, and we're going to work with the architects and the DL department to make sure that that is part of the final design.
All right, question number 6 talks about Lincoln Center having accessible space and outdoor play area. I know we discussed this very recently about how we make Lincoln Center accessible, because as you know, right now it's not a school. It was a school many, many years ago. It's no longer a school. And there will be a transition plan to transition it back to a school and have those items that schools traditionally have. And that's kind of what the architects would work with the district on, and somebody who would be working closely with them is Mr. Moe. Is there anything more you want to say on that?
That's an excellent answer. That is something we will review as part of the design. Lincoln Center previously had a playground space there. So we would be looking at that again as part of the best program at AOEC. The most suitable locations, ensuring it's part of the final plan, architect review, as well as making sure it's safe because that is on a main road on Sheridan Road.
Question 7, why put the space for kids? Why not put the space for kids first, not administration? So we can speak to that. I believe the way I'm interpreting it is the order in which the projects are going, and Mr. Moten or Dr. Mel can talk about the order and why that order is necessary as it's a domino effect.
So currently, the Educational Services Center cannot house students. It cannot be a school. So it needs to be used for other items. So we have the wraparound services there, as well as the staff going there. We need to vacate Lincoln Center currently in order for this plan to work. So that's the first move. We vacate Lincoln Center, we vacate the Welcome Center here, make it a professional learning center for staff, and then Lincoln Center transitions in the renovation plan and timeline to become the best program in AOEC. AOEC would transition to that location, and then we can look to AOEC for the JROTC Academy. So those are kind of the dominoes we're looking at. Again, the 214 Washington property cannot be a school based on how the district went through the acquisition process of that property.
Timelines. That's important, obviously. We've given some timelines here, but if you're a parent, you want to know what's this going to be for my child and when. And so LeBaron spoke a little earlier about the steps that our Board of Education took this week, which is going to kick off some of that architect work. And then once that is more solidified, the timelines will become more clear, but I'll let LeBaron explain.
Thank you. So essentially, we're trying to do this based on the academic year. So right now, our timeline, we're projecting 12 to 13 months once each phase starts. So Educational Services Center, the timing would start now, and the construction will be complete in July of 2023. For the other locations, Lincoln Center, again, once the staff that are there now transition out, then we'd start the construction phase there. So that would be, again, July, August 2023 to the summer of 2024. So you're looking at a fall transition for opening at each of the locations. Lincoln Center, which will become AOEC and the BEST program, we would be projecting to open in the fall of 2024 with the Educational Services Center opening in the fall of 2023.
Another ADA related question is why does the district put money toward buildings that are not ADA compliant or student friendly, that are over 80 years old? As we discussed, there are plans, LeBaron mentioned, Lincoln Center currently not a school. Obviously, if you put children, students in there, there's certain requirements that need to be met, and LeBaron can speak more to that, and some of the work that we continue to do to meet ADA compliance.
Sure. So we have worked with our DL department through some local funds and IDA funds to create compliant spaces within our schools, especially in the locations that didn't previously exist. If there are spaces needed that are compliant, like restroom facilities, diaper changing, shower facilities, flushing, etc., that need to be housed in individual classrooms throughout the district. So those reviews have been done, they will continue to be done, and it's going to be based on programmatic needs within each building. One year, the need may not exist versus next year or the year after. So that's how we're addressing that situation. We do have a lot of older buildings within the district. We acknowledge that, which is why the Board of Education approved a $116 million capital improvement plan to update the current facilities that we have. They were built to stand the test of time as educational facilities. We're doing the best we can to prolong their life, not only aesthetically, but also infrastructure-wise, to make sure that we can keep the heat running, keep the water from leaking through the roofs, and keep the water flowing throughout the buildings.
Right. The last of our top 10. Why is the Armory not being used to house the JROTC program? Mr. Mullen, you want to speak a little bit about that? I believe you were with our team when we acquired the Armory about a decade ago, or you were just joining us.
Yes, so this is the location, this is the Glenflora Armory on Glenflora Avenue. So the district did acquire this property through an auction. It's been used to house records, equipment. We've had the print shop there at one point in time. Our maintenance department houses equipment there as well. So it was purchased through auction as a general purpose facility. Now, as part of this plan, this would be a location we'd be looking to move out of and potentially lease or sell the space. This is a big location within the district, but with some of these other moves that are taking place, we ultimately have determined that this district will not have the original use and intended use that it had before, which was kind of a general purpose use for the district.
And in our longer presentation, we did talk a lot about utilizing our spaces and kind of reimagining how we're utilizing our spaces, and that kind of ties into that Armory discussion. So next up, I believe, is our group activity or individual activity. We'll all be doing it individually. So we answered a lot of questions today, 10 of them that have been some of the most highest rated questions. But undoubtedly, there's something you want to know that we didn't ask, or that we didn't answer, or there's something in the plan that you may feel is missing. And so we're going to do a group activity here. So if everybody has a cell phone, or if they need to access a computer device, I believe Eric can make that available. And what we're going to do, and this is not going to be, what do you guys see on the screen? So you don't see much better. So what we're going to do here is set a timer for our thought exchange. And so we're going to do a similar activity. So if you have a cell phone, or if you can either log on to the Wi-Fi or use your data, go to tejoin.com and you can enter that access code, or you can just scan that QR code. So whether you're at home watching us on YouTube, whether you're in your room, what we're going to do is we're going to put 4 minutes on the clock, and we're going to take some time. Ask the questions. What's missing from the plan in your opinion? What do you think needs to be in there? What do you have questions about? So ask the questions, and then we can rate each other's questions. So as we rate each other's questions, we're going to go through and ask some of the most popular questions that have come in from our group in the room today and on YouTube. So we're going to go ahead and start this timer. And everybody go ahead and ask questions, rate questions, and in 4 minutes we'll come back together. Yeah, I mean, that's, it's like, when I prepare for this Tuesdays, so do that. With that, So again, you can get more than one question, and make sure you go through and rate some answers as well. And since it's a star system, you just get 1 through 5 stars. About 30 more seconds. Once we hit that timer, I'm going to disconnect the technology because I have to do some switching of some items, but I believe my more than capable colleagues will entertain you guys for about 30 seconds, so we'll do that.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Teresa. I'm the school superintendent. I just wanted to say thank you for coming out today, and please ask any questions to my staff that you have that's work here for this evening.
All right, so we're going to stop and I'm going to disconnect here while I take care of some stuff on the computer, and we'll be right with you guys to answer some of the thoughts that came in. We've got some good questions here, so we're going to connect and go through them real quick. Let's see, is that visible? We've got some. All right, can we see that? So we'll have Mr. Moten, Dr. Null, Mr. Nissen help answer some of these questions. So for clarity, will the BEST program house autistic SPED students currently engaged in classroom, or for students that require more SEL therapy services? So, Mr. Nissen.
Okay, so the BEST program is district-wide. It has multiple levels and layers. When we're talking about this new BEST program that will be located at Lincoln Center, it's specifically designed to serve students that we're currently outplacing and paying them a private company to educate. The students who are in the regular schools today will stay in the regular schools. It's our goal to have the complete continuum of services in all of our schools. But the best program at Lincoln Center will be for students that are currently, we're sending to a therapeutic school.
Thank you, Dave. So next question, student input for the plan. We know student input is important. Our students ultimately are the who we're going to be serving, and so Dr. Melt's going to talk a little bit about some of the plans that we have for student input, what some of our different departments and programs are going to be doing to gain student input, and how we hope to do some more of that.
Thank you, Nick. Yes, as Nick mentioned, stakeholder input is critically important, especially for students if we're making changes that are going to be impacting the experiences of our students in the district. So some of the things that we've already done or are starting to do is, for example, our JROTC Colonel and his team is starting to get input from his students and their students about what they would really want this ideal JROTC Academy to look like. Okay, so we're getting that input from them. We're getting input from AOEC students as well. As they think about transitioning to a new space, trying to get their voices involved in the process. We've consulted with the principal at that school as well. DL, we're going to continue to engage with families, talk to families about what their needs are, so we can best meet the needs of their students that may be coming to the Best Center as well. And then throughout this process, we're going to create some more opportunities for students to share their voice. Students across all schools. The high school in particular, we'll create opportunities for them throughout the day, perhaps do some surveys, perhaps get some input, have some sessions at the schools, that kind of thing. So there's a plan to try to get as many voices as possible throughout this process.
Thanks, Dr. Melton. Where can I get a copy of this plan? I'll handle that. It's online. We have it on our website. It's been emailed. If you're a parent, if you're a staff member, you should have it in your email. You can find it on our website, on social media platforms. We'll throw it in the, if you're watching at home, hello, we'll throw it in the comment section on YouTube, a link to much more details, where you can also access a copy of the plan in English and in Spanish, so that you can view the slides if you'd like. There's actually some more slides in there. We only brought an abbreviated version. So we have much more online. We'd be happy to share that so people can see that. I believe the next question is for Mr. Molt, maybe handling. For the Wraparound Service Center, who in the community will benefit from these services? City of Waukegan community or just the District 60 community?
So that's a great question. I apologize if I didn't explain the Wraparound Center as clear as I could have earlier. So this would benefit all Waukegan residents. So we have District 60 parents and staff members. They can go and access the services on the first floor and the rest of the building. But if those District 60 parents and staff need services at the Wraparound Center, they can go there. However, any community member can access the Wraparound Center based on the hours that it will have. So it'll be open during the day, it'll be open extended hours in the evenings, 7, 8 p.m. That's going to be part of the planning proposal that we have, so that the individual organizations that are going to be renting or using those services, or those spaces within the building to provide services, will dictate that based on their staffing levels, as well as on the weekends. So any Waukegan resident can access the Wraparound Center for these variety of services. And again, this is a convenient location. It is in downtown Waukegan. We will have parking. It's next to the bus line. The College of Lake County is right across the street from us. The students accessing the services there and going to classes can access these services here. So it's open to anybody in the community.
Thank you, Mr. Moulton. Next question. What will be the minimum age or grade level for the best program? And they go on to say about outplacement services and what's available in Waukegan and Lake County currently. Mr. Nissen, would you like to handle that?
So the vision for the best program that will be at Lincoln Center will be to provide services for students who are K through 12, depending on their needs. We may not have all grades when we first start. We need to look at how we can serve the most students with the space we have as it opens. But the intention is to serve all grade levels. With regard to students having to leave Lake County, we do have some students who have to cross the border into Cook County right now. And if we can serve those students in our program in-house, that's better for them, it's better for us, and it's better for the community.
Thanks, Dave. Again, we got some different resolutions going on between the monitor or the computer, so we're going to disconnect so we can read the final question here. And this question is about why we need to add social services, and should our focus be more on educating students? So the need to add social services, I believe, is referring to the wraparound center. And the wraparound center is something Mr. Moten has talked quite a bit about, how that's going to benefit our community, where the funding for that's going to come. And Mr. Moten actually had the opportunity in the fall, if I'm not mistaken, to take a trip down to Peoria with a number of staff members and some of our board members to see a similar wraparound center and the success they've had there with that, and how crucial that wraparound center is to the community, not just the school community, but the Peoria community. And so LeBaron can talk about, when you see something like that, what it's able to do, why we want to bring something similar here to Waukegan.
Yes, thank you. So yes, I did have the opportunity to go with some of our board members as well as some administrators to Peoria in November last year. And what we saw was there was a school there that we toured that had the wraparound center within the school. It was a school that was about 30% occupied, so there were a lot of empty classrooms. So one wing of the building, they turned into a wraparound center, about 10 suites, where they had all the services you can think of. They had mental health supports, they had juvenile justice advocates, they had a respite center, which was an alternative to out-of-school suspension for students who needed it, housed within one location. You walk into the lobby, you greet a secretary or assistant, you schedule an appointment, they tell you where to go, and they provide the service. And then those agencies were communicating with each other because individuals were coming for more than just one service, some of them. They also had a food pantry that opened on the weekends, on Saturdays, for any individual in the community who wanted to come get food, because they were in what they call the food desert in this particular area of town in Peoria. So our state representative, Rita Mayfield, advocated for this in Waukegan. At the time, we were told that there were only 4 sites within the state of Illinois that had appropriated funding to create a wraparound center, and Waukegan was one of them. So they wanted to partner with the school district to provide this service. Obviously, our schools are fully utilized. We do not have enough space for a wraparound center in any of our schools. So we were thinking, what would be the most appropriate location the district currently has that could utilize the space, create the space to utilize the service. And that's how we got to the 214 Washington location. It's currently vacant. CLC is expanding. It is centrally located. Again, like I said earlier, it's near the Pace bus line, one of the main hubs, as well as just a little down the street from the metro. And you also have other essential city services in downtown Waukegan that are within 1 to 2 block radius. So that's how we came up with that. Rita Mayfield has supported the district, again, for many years. She recommended this. This is going to be funded by other agencies, not just from a capital improvement standpoint and construction standpoint, but the programmatic support from the Illinois Criminal Justice Authority. $800,000 a year to manage the programming for this site means that the district is not planning on using any funds to support it. So if we need to hire a manager, if we need to support these agencies with supplemental materials, paper, furniture, things like that on an annual basis, that's how we intend to use those funds to support the program. And again, open to the community for everybody. It's just going to be housed in a district location because we have access to a centrally located property in downtown Waukegan.
Thank you, Mr. Moten, for that answer. Thank you for everyone for coming out. We're not done talking about this plan. We're not done sharing information about this plan. These information sessions are just a start. We hope that, in 3-4 years, you guys are tired of hearing us talk about this and sharing information, but we want to make sure that everyone is engaged. We want to make sure you're informed. And as we're going along, we want to make sure that stakeholders have input. So for those of you at home on YouTube, that completes the presentation. For those of you who are here live, we're going to do a little bit of an overtime session. We're going to stick around. If there's anything else you guys want to talk about, you have questions, we're here to answer. If it's related to this plan, if it's not related to this plan and related to the district, and one of us can answer that for you, we're more than happy to. So again, thank you to everyone who's watching at home. Thank you to everyone in the room. And our next meeting is Tuesday at noon at Lincoln Center in the boardroom. We want to offer a meeting in the during the daytime for maybe some of our families who are working during the evening hours and can't make it. So if you can make it then, we'll see you then. You guys can continue to respond to our main thought exchange. Our main thought exchange is where we generate the questions for those 10 questions that we have. So if you go to the main thought exchange question, still live. You can rate answers, you can ask questions, and we will work to hit the most popular ones up on the screen on Tuesday. So thank you, everyone.